Hello guys, today we're going to discuss about this serverless event driven architecture. Basically, what does serverless mean? Serverless means like our application is going to be completely maintained by the providers, cloud providers. Say suppose AWS. AWS is going to provide is going to completely maintain our servers. Like whenever there is a requirement, then our server is going to be turned on or else it's going to be turned off. Like that is what meant by serverless. It doesn't mean that there won't be any server. There will be a server, but which is not maintained by us, but which is maintained by the AWS, which is going to be a different thing. And what does this event driven architecture mean? Like the event driven architecture mean like whenever there is an event occurred which is going to trigger something to happen. Like whenever there is an event, there is going to be something which is going to be run in the background, like the asynchronous way, not in our front end of like our front of upfront of our application. Like we'll have an application running on our back, running application. So suppose some application is running. So okay, just leave it. Some application is running, and say suppose some application is running, and if we wanted to like if some application is running and if we trigger if you want to give an email notification or do some video processing or something else, the application is going to uh, have like if something fails or something fails, like if say user logs in and the user wants to if say user logs in and if user wants to like uh, whenever the user logs in, we are going to send a new user like hello message or welcome to the application message to the user, like message or notification or any email service like that. So uh, this is going to be where the user is going to log in, and this is going to be the service where our where like say suppose okay, let's explain the event driven architecture here. Like this is one thing and this is one thing. Like whenever say user comes and logs in, whenever say user comes and logs into the application, this is like a login based application. Say login based application, and this is like send a mail, welcome mail, application like welcome mail system. Say suppose like whenever user logs in, this is going to trigger this thing like in the backend. So this is going to be connecting towards this, like this is going to be connected, this is not separated, these two are connected. But whenever user logs in, the login is going to store this in a database, like the credentials. Say suppose this is our database, and our our user is going to be connected to like storing our things in the database. But this event, like suppose if this event or this send an email notification fails, so the like this is not much important, like this is not much important to send an email, welcome email. This is secondary, but the main thing is like we need to store the login credentials, like the username, password and all those things in the DB, which is the main thing. So whenever this thing happens, like if this send a welcome mail operation fails, or user data is not going to be stored in the DB database. So this is not like a standard approach in the systems ways. So we are going to use this event driven approach, like where we are going to say we are going to remove this thing, and we are going to place a queue, like a queue of things. Like if many users logs in, so this not a queue. Suppose don't go to so deep. Let's say there will be something blocking in middle, like and some tasks assigned, like this login, this thing should be assigned to this welcome to email thing. So now this thing is going to trigger these tasks, and this task is like asynchronous, like this is not connected to the login thing. So if user logs in, this is going to send a event to this middle thing, some, let's say some, suppose anything. Generally maybe this might be some Kafka or then maybe a RabbitMQ, some queues or something, but say something. And this is going to trigger the send an email thing. So this is an event driven architecture, like the login is going to be successful even the email thing fails. So this is one thing. This is known as event driven architecture. And see, like, now let us see our serverless event driven architecture, like where we are going to use a lambda function which is serverless, and this is an event driven architecture. So basically what we're going to build today is a basic application where a basic thing, like where a user, like say, where say this thing is a user, and this user is going to upload a PDF to the an S3 bucket, like where this thing is going to upload a PDF to the S3 bucket where he wants to access it multiple times. But storing a PDF for like a large PDF in an S3 bucket costs us more. So what are we going to do is like take this PDF, and then we're going to save for temporarily, we're going to store it in a S3 bucket, and then send, like trigger an event from the temporary S3 bucket to the SQS, like our queuing service, where this queuing service, like what is an SQS, we will discuss it in a later video. For now, let's just understand what are we going to build today. So what is this S3, what is this SQS, what is this Lambda function, and what are these things, we're going to discuss in a later video, and we're going to dive deep into the serverless and event driven architectures furthermore in the future videos. So for now, we're just going to discuss about the what application we're going to build today, like a basic PDF compressor and storing it back again to the temporary bucket. So now now this temporary S3 is going to trigger an event and send the metadata to the serverless, like our SQS queuing things in AWS, where this whole system is built upon AWS. So nothing to worry about, just need an AWS account. And this thing is going to send to a queue, like the metadata, and this queue is going to, like our lambda function which is running in a container lambda function, where this is normal lambda function. What does it doesn't have all the dependencies, like our like our PDF compressor is going to run in an ghost script ghost scripted thing, where which compresses the PDFs, which doesn't actually include in the basic normal lambda functions, like which provides us Python and all those things. But where what we are going to do is we are going to containerize this thing, this our Python application, and then we're going to deploy it to then our ECR, like Elastic Container Registry, and then from there we are going to get the container function, and then we're going to use it in our lambda function. So yeah, without the standard lambda function, we are going to use it as a container lambda function. So then this metadata is going to get into the our lambda function, and based on this metadata, our lambda function is going to fetch the temporary S3, and download it in our lambda function server, and our server, like basically in the server, and this is going to get our file, and this is what does it going to take, it's going to download it over there, it's going to download our file over here, and then what does it do, it just compresses the file over here, and then the main compressed file, like okay, now this is done, this is, let's say this is the main file which is in the server, and then we are going to say this is going to generate a compressed version of this file, say let's reduce this size, and then this is going to store this thing in our S3, this is going to store the compressed one in our S3 bucket. So this is going to be our project, like the temporary, when the user uploads a file to the temporary, we can do this by using our Node.js or any Python or any Java based thing. Just call the API to store this file in the temporary S3, and we can just store it for that. We don't need to manually store those things. We can do it using an API calls and all those things. And this thing, the after this thing was finally compressed and stored in our S3, we're going to delete this thing from the temporary thing. So this is what we're going to do and build today, like the final compressed one is going to be stored in our final S3 bucket. So now let's get into the structured way. Okay, now let's do this thing, sorry, let's get into this thing and get into our AWS server. Like now see, we have our buckets, like the main temporary bucket, which I have already created. Like they're just creating a bucket is so simple, just create bucket, and just give general purpose bucket and give some name like a temporary bucket something. We should be careful about these naming things which these are provided here. Temporary bucket, and if you want to give a backup kind of thing, choose the bucket which is going to get optional, but yeah, this is and set everything as default, and set everything as default. We don't need anything, and then just create bucket. But I already have a bucket, so I don't want to create. Just providing the name is the only thing which we want to do. So after creating a bucket, what we are going to do next is we are going to get into the bucket and say now, okay, now the bucket is created. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create our SQS, like our queuing structure. What are we going to do here? I already have a queue, but let's get how to create a queue. Okay, now this thing is like there are two kinds in a queue, like standard queue and a FIFO queue. What does this standard queue mean? Like the order, like this order is not going to be so important. Like we are not going to give so much importance to the order. Like this function, like the first thing should be done first. Like whenever the first user only needs to get the mail first, the second user is not going to make. So those things are the standard. That we don't follow those FIFO rules in our standard queuing thing. But when we choose this FIFO, we are going to follow those things. But the capacity and all those things and throughput, all those things are going to vary for a FIFO and a standard one. The basically standard one is going to give a higher things of throughput and all those things. So we generally choose the standard one rather than a FIFO, like for the PDFs and all those things. But if we need something like the first thing, like whenever a first thing is uploaded, this that thing should be like mandatorily stored first than the like that thing should be done first than the second thing, or like whenever these things are, then we're gonna choose the FIFO one. So for now, we just choose the standard one. Say some PDF upload queue, just say queue, or you just use the queue or sing queue or something, and then the visible timeout and all those things. We just set these things and leave all these things default. But the main thing is over here. Like here, we are gonna give the full permissions to our like our so this is going to give like here this has our permissions only has for the SQS, like only for the queue, but to access our service like our S3 bucket. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another thing like another statement. So what are we gonna do is like we're gonna add another statement like for accessing our S3 bucket. Like here it's gonna be not principal service, and the rest should be capital, and AWS account and all those things. And here we're gonna give S3. I think S3 some indentation. You can just see it in Google or something. Just give S3 and start like all the permissions for the S3. Uh, and here we are gonna change something. I think uh, not action something. Okay, wait a second. Uh, wait for a second. So what we're gonna basically do is like we are gonna give the permissions of our queue to get triggered by the S3. So now this thing is done. Like here, like you should add this field like owner statement, and this field like where you're gonna allow the S3 services to trigger our queue, and resources are the same queue and all these things. And you just need to basically add this principal as service and these things. That's all, nothing more than that. And come down, and these are all dead letter queue, and we're going to discuss about queues in a later video, like that what does mean by dead letter queue and how does it work and all those things. And just press a create queue. That's all what we need to do. But I already have a queue based on these things, so I just don't do it. You can just do it, like yeah, just create a queue, and it will create a new queue. So it's gonna create a new queue with our policies like our S3 allowing policies and all those things. And we are going to get some messages over here if we poll we call it's gonna at starting it's gonna run a basic test code which is gonna create a single thing, like a single test message thing. And then okay, now we have created our s3, we have created our queue. So now let's connect our s3 and the queue, like trigger, like if someone uploads something in this file, we need to trigger this thing, so such a way. So now let's take this temporary bucket as an example, and we created a temp slash folder to store our files in this folder, like in the temp slash folder file. So now if we go to properties in the bucket, you're gonna see something known as create an event, like an event notification, like this thing, and Amazon event, this thing, Amazon event, this thing. And you just want to click on create new event and say some event name, like connect to SQS on upload. Basically big names are good, so please keep some big names, and choose the file, like on which file you we upload, so we can trigger this thing. So I have specified a temp because I have taken a temp, and specify the type of the file, like I'm gonna say PDF. So we're gonna compressing the PDF, so just specify the type of the thing. And this is like if we upload only in the temp, then only it's gonna trigger this thing. We upload this on PDF, then only it's gonna trigger this. And now what we're gonna tick here is, like if someone puts an object, like if this event should be triggered if someone puts the object on this temporary, if someone posts, like updating the object, like uploading a new object with the same name, or if someone copies the object. No, we don't need this, and we don't need a multi-part, like a duplicate object something. So we just want to create, okay, we just take this, multi-part upload complete. So all these things are, all these three things are going to trigger our event. We don't need to trigger for deletion, so we don't need to trigger for deletion, we don't need to restore and all those things. And this is life cycle and all those things. Just if this is going to expire, which is going to trigger our SQS, we don't need all those things. We just and here what happens if someone uploads, we're just going to trigger our SQS, our queuing thing, and choose from our SQS, like select the SQS which we have created recently. It's going to be a different name, and just save changes. That's all what you have to do on what things are it's going to trigger, and on just on what temporary, on what folder and what suffix of the PDF or those things, and that's all. And save changes, which is going to create an event to be triggered on someone uploads a file on this temporary thing. So now let's go to our SQS, and SQS is created and our this thing is created. Now let's go to our Lambda functions. So here, create a basic Lambda function. Yeah, basic Lambda function. To create a basic Lambda function on like C here, which is also from scratch, where we are going to choose like the Python thing or the Node.js thing and all those things. We are going to choose from here. So which is not going to have our Ghost script, Ghost script basical, the Ghost script one, like basic CLI, which is a CLI tool to compress our PDF, which is not going to have in this thing. So what we are going to do is we are going to select a container image, and we are going to give the function name. So compress PDF. So we already have some which is and this thing, and we're going to choose the function name, and then we're going to choose the image, like the container image from our ECR, like browse the image, and select the this thing. Like we don't have access to this thing because of this user, but basically you just upload an ECR image and then you just select this thing from there. So okay, and you just select the image from there, like that's all, that's the thing. Then if you select, basically I have the example for this thing, like let's see. Yeah, this thing which is like the basic thing to an ECR. Like if after creating the ECR, you're just gonna get just create an ECR, new ECR, elastic container registry, and then you just gonna uh, create a Docker file, like say just see how this Docker file looks, like what are all the dependencies it has and all what are all those things. Just let's see, it's gonna just have, this is the thing which is gonna publishers on all those things, like which what all these things support, we're gonna see. We in the AWS we have these things, like what are all the images that are being supported by the Amazon Lambda function containerization. So you can see what are all the base images for the Python in this thing. I'll just provide you the link in the description or in the comment section. And this is going to be how our Docker file is going. So after taking the base image, we're just going to import, we're just going to install our Ghost script, and then that's all. We just need the Ghost script to compress our these things, and uh, so then you can have this Lambda function. I'll just briefly explain the Lambda function. One second. And this thing is going to import all those things, subprocess JSON, boto 3 is basically for connecting our AWS things and server and all those things. And this thing is basically uh, boto 3 and all those things. And yeah, this thing you can see here, temporary bucket and all those things, and Lambda functions and all those things. And we have this thing. Mm, and this is for basic compression. We can just get this get this from Google or some, use some tools and get those things. You will get those things, and this is our file. What's, and you can see from here. You can see from here, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna define how to compress these things, and here slash screen means it's gonna be compressing more heavily, aggressively, and this is gonna be an event, and this is going to be a handler to trigger our Lambda function from the SQS and delete the queuing things and all those things. It's going to take all the events from the uh, from our thing. This is like here you can see the record and all those things. This is going to take the bucket name and all those object and all those things. And yeah, this is how we can take it. And and as you have seen both of our Docker file and our Lambda function. So what we're gonna do is we build our Docker image from this, and then we upload it to our ECR, and from there we are gonna select our Lambda functions container image from that ECR. So I think I have those functions, but yeah, you can see from here I have those commands. See, I have those commands login with the password and all those things, and you can you can upload these things like the doc. You just log in with this. Before that, please be sure you are configure AWS configure, uh, like you are configured with the AWS, like all those things, uh, before doing those AWS ECR uploads and all those things. AWS configure, you can use, there is a trick for multiple usage, you say like you have multiple hyphen profile, I think. Say you'll have multiple users, like user IAM, user user one, user two, user two. You can configure like using this slash hyphen profile, with say suppose this thing. You can just configure with these things, but whenever you are uploading, like say whenever you are connecting with connecting with your uh, AWS account, you should use this slash slash profile to connect with it. Like see here, slash slash profile. You should be able to, you should be doing this whenever you log in with those things and all those things. And you can have and and build the image using this command, which builds the image. And I have already built it and all those things, so you just don't need those things. And you can tag the image using this command, and then push the image to the ECR. After pushing the image, you can see it, and then you can see from here create a lambda function like this is a basic one. Create a lambda function. I have already shown you. Create a lambda function, say some name, and then choose from here. You can choose the, like, I don't have access, but for now, but you can choose the image from here, and then basically you just create the function, that's all. And I'll show you the function, how it looks and all those things. After creating the function, once after creating the function, you'll get something like this without this SQS trigger. You'll get something like this without this trigger. And from here, what are you going to configure is, you're going to configure the, from here you can change the image, like deploy a new image, and you can change, like, as you can see I have this image already, but you can change the image type and all those things, and configure this thing, and just configure the memory and all those things for now. So which is gonna, our thing is a big one, so we're gonna keep high memory and high imperial storage. But and this timeout is important, like we're gonna take from the Docker and then we're gonna run it. So keep somewhat higher, like 30 seconds to 1 minute to 2 minutes, and so on. So it can take from the Docker image and build the image, and then run the image, and then it needs to do the tasks inside that image. Be careful while doing this. After that, you go to permissions, which is important, which is very important, and you're gonna add the permissions, like you're gonna add the permissions for the S3 and for the SQS, and the lambda is default, like you CloudWatch lambda are default, which is going to be added by uh, lambda functions, but S3 and SQS should be given by ourselves, so that it can trigger the SQS messages from it, read the messages, and then it's gonna delete the temporary PDF file from the S3, and it's gonna upload our compressed PDF to our main S3. So how this is how we're gonna do this, like we're gonna add the policies, like here, say here we just gonna select add permissions, and this is gonna take us to a new thing. And then we're gonna say we're just gonna say functions, uh, add permissions, like, sorry, we need to add permissions here, add permissions. I think I don't have this permissions to add this, but you can just go there and you can just add permissions, view those things. Basically you just can view permissions from here, you just give the permissions for SQS and S3, that's all. And then add a trigger, like here you should be able to add a trigger for those things. You just select the SQS, and this thing, batch size is important, like how many batches should this thing should take. So we'll keep it as one, so minimum thing. And then we'll just just this batch size and this batch window are like, batch size is like, at a time if 10 queuing messages events occur, like not 10, say suppose 100, our lambda function is going to process 10 events at a time. So uh, this thing is important, like the batch size, and our lambda function is going to process 10 events at a time. So this depends upon your use case and your things, but basically we just for now keep it simple and say one. And batch window means, like it's gonna wait, it is a time where it's gonna wait until, like, say suppose if we have given 10 here, say if we have given 30 seconds here, if one event is in the queue, it's gonna wait for the 30 seconds for, like, if this thing is fills for the maximum, like say 10, we're gonna 10, and this thing is gonna, if we use 30 here, so this thing is gonna wait for 30 seconds to fill our queue up to 10, like it's gonna wait till it fills to the 10, and then it's gonna send all those 10 messages at once to our lambda function. So and then you just add the trigger here. I just gonna keep everything default and just keep it as an active trigger, like whenever this thing is uploaded, those things. And now our things are done, our SQS is there and everything is there, our trigger is SQS and all those things, and this is the basic thing which you just need to do. Nothing else are like more needed. And then I'll show you a demo like S3, like what I have built, and we'll wrap this section and then go to temporary. And as you can see in my, like, As you can see, I have given the event trigger for this temporary thing, and then go to an upload and just upload a file. Say document and upload something. So this thing is 6.54 MB, and then open it and add this thing. See the name. You can see the name offer letter.pdf, and it's getting uploaded because my internet is somewhat slow. So yeah, it uploaded, and as you can see, which is in the temporary file right now, and you can see it's still in the temporary. If you want, I can show you the queue thing, which will be having this thing in the flight for now. This thing like one message in flight. It now zero messages in flight. So which is like which message in flight, message is available, and then it's gone directly to our Lambda function. Now if you see in our S3, you can see in our temporary, which is not gonna be here because it Lambda function just deleted this thing after uploading it to the main bucket. This is our main bucket, inside which in the resumes we have this offer letter, which is 2.1 MB. Like you can see, it is 2.1 MB. So this is these two are folders, and this thing is like 2.1 MB, which is compressed from all around from 6 to 2 MB, 6 MB to 2 MB. So this is our architecture is going to work, and this is how our architecture is going to work. And after this, our Lambda function is going to go down because AWS just wraps up whenever the Lambda function is needed, and it just closes, shuts the server whenever it's not needed. So that's how this thing works. Try to build everything in serverless architecture, and yeah, that's all. Thank you. And this is how I have built this PDF compressor using serverless event.